trade into Singapore ever. So I don't know how this has happened. It's taken 99 years, but for some reason, and I've come here a few times, not for probably 10 years, and just I'm visiting to visit friends. But I think it's partly because we've got a great team here selling our wines, and they insisted I come, and I thought, well, fair enough, that's good enough reason. But also, I love coming to Singapore anyway, because the Singaporeans are some of the most friendly, laughing people in the world. They're always laughing. Whenever they say something to you, it's in jest. and so they're very Australian as well. So I often think that maybe the Singaporeans are the closest to Australians in nature. Maybe not in looks, but because we're made up of multicultural, I'm sure that some of the Singaporeans look like some of the Australians. If I can give you a little bit of background about Darrenburg first of all, my great-grandfather bought the vineyard in 1912, and it was planted in the 1880s. He was the director of Hardy's, Thomas Hardy and Son, for 27 years. And weirdly enough, a teetotaler, which doesn't make any sense at all. You're a wine director and you buy a vineyard and you don't drink. He also was the biggest race stakes earner of South Australia. Big horses, basically, had the most horses and made the most money out of them. And I didn't know the racing industry didn't drink either. And he started the #1 football club in South Australia. Well, I was there biased, but they're still around. But Norwood Football Club, and I thought footballers had to drink as well. So I think he was actually quite eccentric and he lied. I think he actually did drink, but he's from a Methodist family, so he didn't want his parents to know, basically. But the winery was built in 1927. And we still actually use the same way to make all of the wines. And I'll talk more about that as we get into the reds. Submerged caps fermented, no plunging, no pumping over, they're foot trod. Everything is basket pressed. The whites, everything we make goes through basket pressing. And most people think we're pretty crazy like that. And my father always thought that I would change the winery when I came home. My father's still around, he's 84 years old and still out there selling wine, and he leaves me to make the wine now. But he's still quite active and gets up and says a few stories, a lot of stories. We try not to let him come into the winery too often, because whenever the boss comes around, something's going to go wrong. And we had a heap of Japanese there one day, and when he was showing them around, and someone opened a big door of a vat, and out came about 900 litres of fermenting red wine flat out, and they were all standing in 6 inches of fermenting red wine. And you know how much money the Japanese spend on shoes, or women anyway. Well, their shoes were in half. They didn't really think that. But anyway, so we do let him into the winery, just watch him closely, and everyone around him. I finished a Roseworthy winemaking degree in 1983 and returned home straight away. My father said, well, you're trained now, you make the wine. And of course, he thought I was going to change all the equipment to these new Vinomatic cement mixers with big modern tanks and everything else. So get rid of all the old open fermenters, change everything, and of course, how can you change anything? You don't even know how to make wine when you leave college. It's like going to art school and not being given a paintbrush or canvas or any paint the whole time you're there, and then at the end of it, someone say, paint me a great painting. You can't do it. So it's the same in winemaking. You're not making wine, you're just learning all the theory. And then when you finish the course, you have to then start tasting the grapes, start squashing them and turning them into wine, and obviously build up an understanding. But I didn't want to change anything because I thought, well, these have been working so well for us over all the years. Then all we have to do is just work out what the nuances are, what exactly is the best way to work with them to get the best out of them. Because there was always a little bit of hit and miss before that. My father always said he made wine by the seat of his pants. Now, I'm not sure whether that means he was sitting down the whole time or whatever, but what he really meant was it was just, the grapes would come in and you ferment them and then you squash them and get all the juice out, and then whatever looked good is what you ended up bottling, basically. But nowadays there's a lot more understanding and feeling, and I'll pass that through when we get into Silver Red. We've only got 35 different wines, so we'll all be very sober by the end of it. I'm joking, actually. No, I'm joking about the sober part. Actually, there are only about 4 reds. I think you've probably already inspired with the main courses. But we actually do have a whole heap of other wines here that were left over from a tasting I just did. They're actually little single vineyard Shiraz and sub-region Grenaches and a few other new vintages of Ironstone and different things there, and some older Last Magpie and Gauba, whatever. So later on, when you've had enough of the reds that you're already drinking, come along and have a taste through some of these single vineyard wines, which are a whole new label concept and whatever for us. Look, I've probably chatted for long enough for now. I know I need to talk more when we've actually got some wine in the glass, which I'm going to lose my voice if I don't have one shortly. I normally talk about the first wine that's been presented, which was actually, of course, the strawberry and watermelon wine from, non-alcoholic wine from McLaren Vale. The watermelons were grown in between the rows, and then the strawberry, no, they weren't. No. But it was refreshing anyway. So look, enjoy, and I'll stand up and talk again shortly when we've had something to drink.
What I suggest is let's don't do it too over formally, and I would really suggest that let's interact how you feel, and let's talk about it rather than he talks most of the time. Yeah. Tonight you are here, you're supposed to do your part. Talk.
You can ask a question right now if you want.
Ask any time when we have our food, pairing with the wines tonight. Something also quite exciting because we get from Conrad, from Alan and the chef is putting out something exciting on the Chinese cuisine to go with the wines. And as I always say, for any wine dinner, I really would prefer everybody to talk, because that's how we gain a better understanding of each other. It's a good engagement time that we get married, and no, it won't